Welcome to Pirate Living Podcast. We're your hosts, Karan and Kristin. On this podcast, we are highlighting ordinary people living extraordinary lives. These are pirates who take small, bold actions daily to create social change. Pirate life is all about rebelling and breaking the rules for good. Creating lasting social change starts by first breaking our inner rules. After all, the hardest rules to break are your own. The pirates we highlight have dedicated themselves to creating good trouble. Today, we are talking with Ruslana Remennikova. Ruslana is a coach, holistic practitioner, and writer. Ruslana is the host of her own podcast, Fire and Heart Podcast, and is currently in the process of finalizing her first book. She wholeheartedly believes that creativity is a lifestyle and guides people to go all in on creativity in their life, business, and relationships. And I could go on and on about all the amazing things that Ruslana does and is, but above all, she's a daughter of the earth and stars who advocates for love in all forms of and a life of sovereignty. And she's an angel in human form. So we're excited to have you here today.
Thank you. Wow. I'm so humbled for that introduction, and I need to just have that tattooed on me so I can read it and feel the love every day. Thank you so much for that.
Welcome. And I do want to ask, this was my number one question to ask before I hit record, and then I forgot. Did I pronounce your last name correctly?
It was perfect.
Thank you.
It's like you're a Ukrainian native yourself.
So you have gone on quite a journey between with science and spirituality. You've woven together a life that is all your own. And we'd love it if you take us on a journey and share how you began your own pirate journey and got to where you are today.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for that. And I love how, first of all, I love how the universe works through our life experiences, because so much of our perspective and lens is forward focused, and we forget about all of the other amazing reasons why experiences happen in our lives. And so my life has very much been surrounded by darkness growing up and experiencing traumatic loss. And my story is also very much about overcoming pain. And what I'm grateful for is the fact that I chose, with my own sovereignty, I chose to live a life that encompasses, that welcomes the dark with the light. And I truly want other people to see their own power. I want everyone to understand that they are in charge of their own happiness and their own sadness. And I particularly claim both, because so much of our health and wellness is focused only towards accepting only the good things. And what I'm seeing now in this new age era is that sadness, don't come near me with your sad vibes, is excluded. And I see a problem in that. I see that the polarization between both creates conflict. So I wanted to introduce first that I am a light and a dark worker. I am a psychic and a spiritual scientist, and I'm a writer and a healer. And I really would love to share about the things that I've overcome, and then the glorious experiences that the universe gave to me and what I chose to do with them. So my parents immigrated to the United States as refugees from the Soviet Union. And I was 2 years old. The Jewish community in Petersburg, Virginia, sponsored my family. So my parents, my father, my mother, my grandmother, and myself, we immigrated here on donations and secondhand items. And meanwhile, my father and mother were learning English, trying to find jobs. I went to daycare. I was learning English, Russian, and Hebrew at the same time, which was incredibly diverse. And, I was really lost as a child, because I I had a very traumatic experience where I was confronted as a child of sexual assault, which I don't actually, it's my first time talking about on the air. And it left me in a very traumatic state, where I started to focus inward and stay out of trouble. And watching my father and my mother financially integrate into this new lifestyle, I understood how everything, it was important for me to do well in school. It was important for me not to break any rules. It was important for me to stay focused, not distracted. Because I was here to complete my father's legacy. Whew. And moving forward, I was very shy in school. I focused, like I said, on my studies. I ended up getting a full scholarship to go to VCU, Virginia Commonwealth University, which is it's a huge university here in Richmond. It's what makes Richmond, truly. But I ended up majoring in biology and chemistry, 3 credits away from majoring in forensic science. So I was a science buff. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, but I continued to let the universe show me. And I ended up finding my first job my only job. I've been with the same company for 10 years. But I was a research scientist at a pharmaceutical research contract organization here in Richmond. And I ended up marrying my college sweetheart at the time. We were married for 7 years. And all of that, the story, you hear the story, you hear my milestones, but the most important thing here is that I wasn't following my own dream. I was following a dream that I believed my, parents wanted for me, and also following the American dream or the narrative of it. And it's understandable, coming from a refugee background, having a very traumatic sexual assault experience as a child that I didn't really heal from at the time. And it affected the next 20 years of my life, where I felt oppressed in my voice. I felt oppressed in my sexuality, following instructions, making a dream come true that wasn't mine is also violating my own soul plan. So when I entered the marriage with my ex-husband, my former husband, I also ended up joining a very radical religious organization. And again, I was following a dream that wasn't mine. I was following directions. I was believing that this is what people do. This is the key to happiness, right? And let's see, our marriage lasted for 7 years. And what happened was I ended up in my book, or in the manuscript, I had called a section 7 years a ghost, because that's exactly what I was. I was a ghost. I completely took myself off of social media for 7 years. I threw away all of my clothes and started to wear very conservative, clothing, not to reveal any skin. We followed very strict holy days. Every Sabbath, which is Friday sundown to Saturday sundown, we would listen to sermons or travel. And I completely removed everything of the social layers of my life. And it was strictly my ex-husband and his family, and then my family, and then somewhere in the middle was me. But who is me? Who is me? I never got to that. I never got to that moment. And with all of the things, all of the healing that I needed caught up to me in 2016, where I found myself in a basement, in the closet at 3 a.m, YouTubing how to put together a shotgun because I wanted to kill myself. Literally, I'm trying to figure out a way to put together a shotgun and kill myself. And I didn't have anyone, or at least I thought I didn't have anyone, taking myself off of social media, feeling ashamed and embarrassed to talk about it with my family. And then not having any friends. I felt really alone. So as I'm like 40 minutes into it, trying to put it together, it hit me really hard. What am I doing? What am I doing with myself right now? So I called the suicide hotline, and I decided that from this point moving forward, first of all, I was grateful for whoever it was on the other end of the line, because it was awesome to hear someone's voice that was comforting and friendly, because I didn't have that. But I decided that I can't live this way anymore. I am going to change my life. I'm not going to be depressed. I'm not going to be overweight, and I'm going to start my own healing process. So my father and I, who is my closest connection in my life, my best friend, we decided to commit to doing a triathlon together, an Olympic level triathlon. So an Olympic level is a quarter of a distance of an Ironman. And we decided to do like a 3-month self-training series. We registered for Lake Monticello. The name was Monticello Man, and it was May 7th of 2016. And over the course of 3 months, we were training together. He lived in Philadelphia and I lived in Richmond, Virginia, but we would connect every day and just talk about our progress. And I remember just how much better we started to feel just by approaching the physical component of our wellness, physical health, and himself as well. He was also overweight. He wasn't happy with himself. He was clinically diagnosed with depression. But we started to see things looking up. Well, on May 1st of 2016, we did the triathlon. We were super happy and excited to start this new chapter of doing triathlon together. And then 6 days later, on May 7th of 2016, my father died of a heart attack. He died in his sleep. And that was by far, and still is, the most devastating, that was the most devastating thing that has ever happened to me. Is my rock, who I felt was my rock at the time, disappeared. And then it's just me. And I can feel like my heart is just palpitating, because that man meant more to me than a father. He was one of my soulmates. But he changed that changed my entire outlook on my life. And I asked the question, who am I living for? What am I doing with my time? What do I want to do with my time? So as I'm confronting myself and asking myself some really serious and hard questions, I decided that I'm going to start living for myself now. And I am going to do some big changes. So the first thing I did was I left this radical organization and decided to start training for a full Ironman to commemorate my father. So that was a year to his passing. And 6 months later, I ended up leaving my ex-husband and starting to live for myself. At the meantime, in that time, I was going through a challenging fallout with my mother, and not having anywhere to go or any friends to stay with. I actually slept in my car for a solid month next to my job, next to my work. I used their facilities to clean, to use the bathroom, that kind of thing. But it wasn't until an angel, my coworker, was actually my boss at the time. She saw me one morning, and she asked me about it. And she asked, where are you staying? And I told her the story. So she ended up asking me to come and stay with her in her house because she wasn't using it. So she let me rent it. And that's where my healing journey started. Is I lived in solitude, again, continuing, but also building out my network now and grieving my father, grieving my divorce, training for this Ironman. I picked Australia, by the way, because that was the only Ironman happening to the year of his death. And it was also perfect because we have family in Australia that he always wanted to meet. So I decided to meet them as well. Well, the day of the Ironman Australia came, and I put all of my love and attention into it because it was my year of grieving my father. And that day really reflected his life a lot. And I was also in this year restructuring how I eat, being mindful of healing my sexuality. I took up pole dancing, and that was a very big instrumental part of finding my womanhood again. Well, for the first time, not again, but I started to feel very sexy and sensual. And I started to dress sexy. I can because I can. No one's going to tell me how to act or how to be. I am a sovereign being. I get to wear red lipstick. One of the trailer to my podcast is called Red Lipstick because the first time that I tried red lipstick on, I felt sexy. And at the time I was in this cult, sexiness doesn't exist. You're not allowed to be sexy, right? But what people don't realize is that in our mainstream society, we're told how to be either way. You don't have to belong to a cult. We're told how to be. Anyway, that's for another time. So, anyway, on the day of the Ironman, I ended up being top 10% of my age group, becoming a bronze world-class triathlete, could literally open doors that go into professional, triathlon status, but decided that when I came back home to my corporate life, that I'm not doing corporate life anymore because I'm an entirely different piece to the puzzle of my life. What I really wanted to do was become an entrepreneur. And I left a year later. I left my pharmaceutical job to take on a food truck. I decided that I was very inspired by my nutrition, of feeling alive and feeling great, because I've never felt that way before physically, coupled with my sexual art and pole dancing. But I left my corporate job to start my food truck, and it was a smoothie truck at the time. I started with juice and smoothies and healthy treats. It was called Pulp Fiction, but I changed it. It no longer was Pulp Fiction. It then became Pulp RVA. Pulp Fiction was chosen just because it's a pun on juice language. And then that same year, I since moving forward, I really started living for myself and doing the things that I wanted to do, not the things that I did not want to do. And what I wanted to do was travel abroad. So I packed my bags, paused my food truck operation in the wintertime, and decided to go and live in Italy for a fall, where I worked on an olive grove and vineyard in Sardinia. Fell in love with biodynamic agriculture, fell in love with the elderly community, fell in love with the Italians, even though I didn't understand anything of what they said. But I got adopted as one. And it doesn't matter if you understand a language or not. If your spirit is there, then you're one. And that's what I loved about this experience is I became one with these people. And with the coffee community, it really inspired me because the oneness and communing at the coffee shop. There's only one coffee shop because it's a 400 person village in the mountains of Martis. Well, that's just the only thing you can possibly do outside of working and gardening is go have coffee or go drink wine. So when I came back to the States, I was inspired. The universe presented an entirely amazing opportunity to open a coffee shop. So I decided to open a coffee shop. It was a 214 square foot little hole in the wall, but it was my gem in heaven. And I decided to create this experience for people in my community, to go to coffee shop, but it was purely based on community. So we did a lot of community events and functions, and the truck and the coffee shop won multiple awards: Style Weekly, Richmond Times Dispatch, Richmond Magazine. Food truck got recognized in Food Network. Really cool, like really, really awesome part of my life. Mm-hmm. And then COVID happened. And with COVID happening, because of my scientific background, I already understood how this was all going to play out, and decided to close my food truck operations. And by the way, I just want to give a moment to my staff, who is, I had a squad of angels that stood beside me, and 6 of them, by the way. 6 is the number of community and pure love. But in a time where they could have left and claimed unemployment, they stood next to me the whole way through, and they were there. They ran the show while I went back to corporate, went back into pharmaceutics, research, working for the lab again. And I transitioned my model. To helping other entrepreneurs, consulting small businesses. I did that for a little bit of time, about 6 or 7 months. And meanwhile, also started writing my book. I was really pulled to write this book. And when I mean pulled, I mean, I wanted to disconnect from as much as I possibly could to heal my voice. And that was the number one thing that was missing from this equation, is that I had gone through, the last 7 to 8 years of my life of this healing journey ever since my dad died. It would have been, it would have been 6 years. It would have been 6 years. Yeah, 6 years. Wow. But, and it's May 7th, so it's coming up actually next week as we speak. But I wanted to start writing, and I didn't know what it was, but as always, I just listened to the universe, and I disconnected from social media on my own terms. I started my own type of healing with the earth and vibrational healing. I took a trip out to Colorado. This was actually one of the first steps of my path into becoming a ceremonialist. I took a trip out to Pine, Colorado, and it was a 4-day excursion. By excursion, I mean like a couple of very intimate women, small group of women. And we were camping in the woods, doing a forest immersion. And it gave me an opportunity to really celebrate Mother Nature in a whole new way. And I came there to have ceremony. I decided to have ceremony over the concept of death, because death has been this reoccurring theme in my life in so many different ways. And I talked with the woods. Where do you want me to have this ceremony? Where should I go? I don't make decisions for myself. I talk with the forces seen and unseen. And as I'm walking through the woods, there's this beam of light coming from the canopy of the trees, and it's funneling down on this white object. And I look at the object, and it is the pelvic bone of a fox. just sitting on a boulder. It's sitting on a boulder. And I'm thinking, who did this? Who placed this fox bone, like pelvic bone, like channel of life, I'm sorry, life and light, but that signifies death and life. Creation and destruction go hand in hand. It's true. So I get near it, and then I decide that this is it. This is where I'm being called to have my ceremony, literally being called here right now. So the next day I write a gratitude journal entry that I was going to very publicly vocalize. I called them in my ancestors, my angels, my allies, my guardians, my protectors. I had a beautiful display of flowers that I found in the forest. I didn't bring a candle, but I brought my water, and I christened it myself. And I had this beautiful ceremony. I started to sing with nature. And then one aspect that I really encourage everyone to explore is self-pleasuring in nature, because that is the most vulnerable way we can give ourselves to anyone or anything. So I decided to do it within nature on the rock, and no one's around. It's just me and 700 acres. And as I'm looking up at the sky and the sun and just surrounded by all of these trees, there's just this like beautiful flowers just come down from the trees. And I know that what I am doing is right. And I know where I'm at is correct. And I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be. And I really wanted to soak in that moment, that feeling of knowing, the nonchalance, that divine nonchalance, because I believe this is our new state that we are entering into, or at least hopefully the bigger picture that we can all step into is divine nonchalance of knowing. So got to connect with another medicine woman from Mexico there, learned so much about indigenous wisdom and intelligence, and then came back, still not on social media or anything like that. I just completely submerging into innocence. And what I learned, I did hire a book mentor, a book coach, to help with my voice. I keep pointing to my throat because what I'm seeing, not only from my experience, but talking with other people, is there is this common missing link in how we are healing. And the missing link is in our throat. It's our ability to talk, communicate. Mm-hmm. It's our ability to connect with one another and realize that we are a sound instrument. We are a sound instrument. Mm-hmm. What vibration are we putting out? It's this, as we know, it's this, or as we are starting to understand, it's the same vibration that's coming back, you know? So when I came back from the trip, my schedule was usually getting up in the morning, meditating. I had my business clients, then I wrote first, but then business clients, and then went to my corporate job and came back to continue earthing and taking care of myself. And then at the end of 2021, I was nearly close to having my manuscript being done. And meanwhile, while all of this is happening, my grandmother, my babushka, she was my father's mother. She was dying for 7 months, and I had actively taken on a death doula role with her. It wasn't official because I don't like to put labels on things, but in very many ways, in my dreams, in animal medicine, in, I guess, shamanic practices, I was told that I am her death doula, and she understood it. So it was towards the end of 2021 where I felt that her time was her new chapter and her new life is coming. So I had started to finish my book at that time. And then it was about, I came home one day from work and I talked to Dave, my partner Dave, and I said, Dave, I think I'm going to quit. I'm going to leave my job. I'm going to have a second exit. And, Dave, supportive, truly my rock in this. He was like, yes, let's do this. We're going to do this together. And it came to, it really, in this time and place, the universe gave me an opportunity to leave an entity with my heart forward and not having a second job or a second thing to fall back on. And my last day was January 20th of this year. So it's been about 3 months or so. But I not only finished my book, not only in my book proposal, and was there for my grandmother's death in the way that my dreams had revealed to me it was going to be, which was that was like a huge milestone in my life, by the way. Like, I do not want to casually put that off. That was a huge part. And actually, I'm going to write a book on that, which I believe will be called The Ceremonialist. But within 3 weeks of looking for agents and looking for publishers, the book pitch was accepted by a publisher. And so I continue in this healing journey, and I'm starting to teach creative writing classes. And I am not a traditional English writing track. I believe in reaching expansive realms so that one can awaken their own knowledge and wisdom to write in the way that is good. It feels good to them, because that is the truth that attracts the next step of the universal plan in so many ways. But anyway, I started teaching my first class last night, and I thought after it, I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I am exactly where I'm supposed to be. I do not want to follow a track that I was told to follow in school, in my community, even with my parents. I really do believe my father would have been proud. And because he stood up for freedom. The whole reason why he immigrated here was for freedom. And I believe my mother is proud of me too. And most importantly, I am proud of me. And I see a huge gap. There's so many waves of corruption that has actually inspired me very greatly with this angelic ferocity to come forward and expose this, expose how we are in the system, and do we truly want to be in the system? And I do believe that we are meant to be in community. We're not meant to be just singular. I do believe that the universal plan entails our individual longing and our community longing. They belong together. But I also believe that we have the sovereignty and the ability to choose our freedom in the way that we want to live our lives. Sorry, that was a long intro.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, I mean, I can see why you've written a book. You have a lot to share, and you've lived, it feels like many lifetimes, and you're still already so young, and you've done and been through so much that it is important for you to share with others that all of these things that you've experienced and learned. And I'm grateful for you for sharing all of that with us today.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, there's so much in there too. Like, I was getting chills while you were talking as well, but there's so much in there on your journey, where especially I want to talk with the voice and the heart forward. Those two stuck out to me huge. my big thing in my growth journey was my voice. I pretty literally suppressed it for a good chunk of my life. I didn't talk in kindergarten. And then I refused to talk to most of the kids in my class and my teachers unless I really, really wanted to for many years. So it was like the number one thing for me in my growth journey was to find my voice and figure out how to use it. And then when you talked about leaving heart forward, that's exactly what I had to do with my job. When I left teaching, I was so in that job where I could have been promoted many times over. They wouldn't have fired me. They're like, you're doing great. We love you. And every job I had before that, I had left for a reason. I was moving. I was done with college. There was always a reason why I needed to quit. And it was never actually an active choice on my own. It was passive. So to have something where it's like, this is an active choice I'm making for myself. And I know I feel it in my bones that I need to make this decision for me. So hearing that in your message too really stood out to me.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I just see that as healers, our lives brought us to a point where we decide to heal. We decide that we've claimed who we are. We understand our purpose. And the next step of that becomes, okay, I have all of the passion in my heart. I know what I want, but how do I bridge over? How am I connecting? What kind of relationships am I cultivating? How do I sustain creative relationships? And all of that is conducive. Our voice is conducive to how we're able to communicate our wisdom and our knowledge. I see this being a huge issue to the grand equation is communicating. And this is a continual path for me. I'm not a guru by any means. I just know that I know where my healing is. And I also am excited by this healing because I see the power in it. Mm-hmm. For me, one of my book coach, this is one of the things that there aren't that many things that put me out of my comfort zone. I have to say, really, there's not. Like, if you tell me, I'm not going to just go and jump off of a cliff, but like, if you're like, hey, why don't you go on that stage and go freestyle rapping, right? I'll go and do it. And I
want to hear it.
yeah, but I'll go and do it. So my brilliant book coach, and this is one of the techniques she helped me with, is free flowing energy from crown to voice, or free flowing from sacral to voice, or root to voice, or just free flowing in general, is start freestyle rapping. And at the time when I first started, it's like going to the gym. You can't really push a lot of weights if you're just getting started, right? Mm-hmm. But I put on some beats from SoundCloud, some like really slow rap, slower tempo beats, and started to work with the energy, let it be more free flowing, and just started to rap. And sooner or later, I noticed that I love this. This is awesome. I love rapping. Why have I not done this before? And as I'm doing this more and more in my practice, I'm noticing more confidence in my writing and my divine self. Just like each of you are your own divine selves, I'm able to express more uniquely. Even with Dave in the car, he'll start rapping for fun. I'll just start tagging along, and it's fun to see what we alchemize, the jam sesh that we have together. But that's just one example. One thing that I really am interested in trying is being an improv comedian. I mean, that is just that's like next level, right? Like coming on stage, putting yourself out there, no one laughs, then what? You gotta keep going.
I'll add, I did an improv class. It's like play. It's what you did as a child. Like, one person says something and you're like, oh yeah, and let's add this thing. So it's adult play too.
Kristin, maybe you and I could start an improv virtual. Anyone want to join?
All right.
Yeah, and it could be completely free. Yeah.
All right, let's do it.
Yeah.
And then you freestyle rap.
And then you join along because it's improv comedy.
Exactly.
Along, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but yes, I agree with you. And I think this is something that encompasses both male and female. I know a lot about female suppression, but just as a general collective, we all need healing in our voice. And sometimes healing could also mean being more selective with what you say as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one of the other things that you talked about that really hit for me was just the whole thing about community, right? And I feel like so often we try to do these things on our own by ourselves and power through it, whatever. And just the power of community and having people there to support you and asking for help and all of the things that come along with community are so important and so, I don't know, forgotten, I think, in this day and age. We're, like you said, we're so separate. We live in our little silos. How did, when you broke away from, the group that you were with, your ex-husband, how did you just start going about building that community again?
Great question. Well, for a while, so I was really interested in healing my sexuality, because I couldn't really connect with myself as a woman, or find that, who am I as a woman, right? And for a while, so I was training, and I just had so much sexual oppression that I just needed to get out. So I literally Googled twerk Richmond, Virginia, because I wanted to learn how to twerk. And, just that pelvic release itself is already energy movement. And together, coupled with fun and exercise, it is a great way to release and find yourself. So I found, this is how I came across the first pole studio, which I started to go to more frequently, and developed a very tight knit female community group. Meanwhile, I would be at home cycling on a bike, and this pole community, we meet like 1 hour a day after work, right? And I started with 1 hour a week because I was shy. Then it turned into 2 hours a week when I finished my Ironman. And then I started coming there more often. But as I'm on my bicycle doing like 2 to 3 hour rides at home, I would YouTube twerk videos and try to understand more about this movement, not because it's just sexy, but just because there's this sense of burst of energy that really attracted me. And it's something that I was longing for. I was looking for that liveliness. Again, not about primal sexuality. I'm talking just about feeling alive, connecting with the self. So I started to learn through video, going to class, building this community of people. And then when I left my corporate job to do my food trucking, I really did pick a great first start as an entrepreneur. Now, it was a hard first start because people, I don't think, understand the hustle behind the food truck industry. Especially being a one-woman show. I didn't have any employees. It was just me. So I was driving around slinging smoothies, booking, scheduling, being my own marketer, social media, manager, doing the whole thing. And that alone gave me the opportunity to meet so many other businesses, because my mindset was about community. My mindset was collaboration. I'm not here to compete. I'm here to add on, right? Just like we all are. But the sooner we can claim that, the quicker we can integrate. So all of these things started to snowball. And, when you start, I believe that when there's momentum that's involved here, then you start to heal sexually. And that is a huge confidence booster. And then all of those things lead to creativity. And I was there, I was creating, I was moving along. I regained my confidence. I still had quite a ways to go with overcoming self-doubt, but the more I put myself out there, it became more of a mindset that I can literally go throw myself into like a lion's den and I just become a lion, Don't do that. Just analogy.
An actual lion.
So, I realize I've had so many diverse experiences in my life, but I also see that it's really taught me and my story has shown to other people what the embodiment of adaptability can be. And choosing to accept your own phenomenon, like choosing to be your own phenomenon, is really what we're all capable of doing. The next step becomes, what do you want to do? How do you want to live for yourself? So that's yeah. If you want community, if you want 1 million followers or whatever, you can get 1 million followers. If you want to write a book and publish it, you can do it. There's so many ways to do it. If you want to be a rapper, you can just do it. If you want to be an award-winning pole dancer, you can do it. You can become a bronze world-class triathlete.
Well,
yes, sorry.
I was gonna say, I'm also really struck by how much of your healing was at least initiated through a physical practice. So like exercise and movement and eating right, and all of these things seem to be such huge pillars in your healing that we don't really talk about that often when we talk about, especially like healing from trauma. We talk about, therapy or journaling, or all these more inner healing practices. So what do you think it was about the physical practices that really helped you with the healing?
The first thing, I've been thinking about this lately. We have to remember that we live on planet Earth, meaning that we're earthlings. And as earthlings, we have to think about, where are we getting our energy source from? The physical body. And the physical body gets it from food. And food quality is everything to our vitality. Just like mental, we get food from a mental source, which is affirmations, which is being surrounded by supportive community, which is learning how to love yourself. We get spiritual energy by vibrations that we choose to be around. In this case, we're talking about the physical. So I decided to change my physical routine and diet, because this is crucial to how I was going to regulate and function and feel. So with the physical and the food, it's easy to understand why people, just the overall collective, is depressed, is experiencing obesity and feeling stuck. Elimination is such an important topic that we don't talk about. I love talking about poop. It's important to talk about poop, because think about it. If we're constipated and we're not regular, those toxins get stuck in the body, and it's understandable why we feel stuck, right? Like our energy isn't flowing because our excretion is not flowing.
Mhm.
So, and it's okay. Like, we can laugh about it and we can smile, but this is a reality that we all face. And so, you know, I got into the rhythm, making smoothies, helping other people become more aware of what nutrition means. And like, there's so many, you can choose your own nutrition regimen. I am not here to tell anyone how to eat or what to do with their bodies or lives. I'm just simply saying, being more mindful of what we put into our bodies is going to reflect in how we regulate and operate.
Yeah. I mean, I work mostly with female clients, and it's kind of a joke that, especially like the new ones, when they come in, the old ones will be like, oh, wait till you get to the period and poop talk. Like, we need to talk about these things. They're so important for like our vitality and markers of our health, especially as women. It has a huge impact as well on our hormones if we're constantly constipated.
Yeah.
So yeah, I appreciate that. I'm
Absolutely.
here for the poop talk.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally. That's another workshop we can have. Poop
Yeah.
talk.
Poop talks.
But Lance and I like to say, when doing like personal work too, pooping is a form of release. So if you're like flowing, yeah, poop it out.
Yes, I love that. If you're flowing, you're rolling.
Let's wrap it.
The other thing is like our mental ability to, like our brain is our programming system. It moderates what our bodies can do. And for me, I've tested so many, I was mentioning, I'm a scientist, I'm a spiritual scientist, but I've actually tested out different ways that we can program our bodies just through meditation, just by telling my body what to do or inviting it what to do. I've created like 6-pack abs, or not 6-pack, but like toneness in my abs just by vibrating it into my abs, and not actually like going out to put in the work for the 6-pack abs. It's an interesting and very sacred topic. And I understand why. It's not a moneymaker. It's just not. But at the same time, it is the path to enlightenment. And it is the best gift we can give ourselves, our sovereign selves, is taking this power that all of us have, learning that to trust ourselves in it, and taking a chance and trying things out. Like, we can program our bodies to poop. We totally can. Similar to the stories I've shared, is we can literally do anything we want to do with ourselves.
And we could go on and on with so much. We'll have to have you back. And you have an important meeting to get to about your book. So where can our listeners go to learn more about you? And then with that too, could you tell us like what some of the things you have to offer are?
Thank you. Yes. Thank you for sharing the space for me to talk about that. The best way to communicate with me is by email, which I'll send that. You'll have show notes. On social media, I am at heart.ruslana, and I have a website, ruslanaremennikova.com, in the show notes. As far as offerings, they're constantly growing. So at the moment, I'm teaching a 12-week creative writing course where I infuse alternative healing to help the student understand that there are different modalities to get to heal, to use for healing, and to access their divine voice. Then I do a lot of sound healings within the community. Mostly they're free, because I hope that vibrational healing is accessible for all. Well, actually, they're donation based, I should say. The benefits, they benefit other organizations. Like, one was Artists for World Peace. The next one is Richmond's a garden activist here, who's been a fabulous decade old garden specialist. And then finally, at the moment, I am organizing a forest camping retreat. And I don't like to use the word retreat, so because it's really not, it's just a gathering. But it's all women. And I would love to have anyone who is interested to come to West Virginia over camping, hiking. There's cacao involved, fire, dreams, and circle, lots of circle. And, in an effort to, it's a low cost gathering. There's also scholarships available for women for that as well. And then with the book, it's in the works. So hopefully in 2023, it'll be out. And that's what I have.
Yeah. Awesome. And how would you recommend our listeners go about starting their own pirate life and taking their own life into their hands?
Beautiful question. First of all, trust yourself. Trust and know yourself. Know thyself. That is the I believe the number one thing in life is self-realization. And once what you can do to get there is start small. Start taking smaller risks, and ones that you can get to, and just go up the ladder. And when you get to the top of the ladder, offer the ladder to someone else who needs help, and keep the ladder going, because this is life. This is the tapestry of life that we're all creating together. And remember where you've come from, because for cosmic abundance is the only way, not the only way, sorry, is a beautiful way that we can remember our experiences and help others to keep going. I hope I put that together right.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Sounded perfect.
Awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much for talking with us and sharing your story, and really enjoyed it.
Thank you so much.